Welcome. Tonight, we step quietly into a world long faded from memory. A world of quiet labor, herbal aromas, and gentle purpose. The world of a medieval apothecary. This is not a tale of great battles or mighty kings. No rising armies, no falling empires. Only the steady rhythm of life, measured in spoonfuls of tincture, marked by candlelight, grounded in earthen jars. Let your breath slow, let your shoulders settle, and allow yourself to drift into a simpler tide. The sun has not yet risen, but already the village stirs. You open the creaking wooden door of your shop with a soft push, the wrought iron handle cool to the touch. Above, a small bell chimes faintly, not sharp just enough to let the quiet room know the day has begun. Your shop is narrow, lined with shelves made of dark timber. Each shelf is crowded with jars and bottles, some glazed ceramic, some green-tinted glass. Their labels are handwritten in slow looping script. Rosmarinus, Lavandula, Salvia, Angelica. The air smells rich and warm. Earthy herbs mingle with faint citrus. Dust hangs in the golden strands of candlelight. You take a moment to breathe it in. This is your world, a world of small things done carefully, of quiet purpose. You light a taper and move about, inspecting the tools of your trade. Mortar and pestles, glass alembics, copper spoons, linen sachets. Some items are cracked, worn from use, but they still serve. In a corner sits your reference tome, a hand-copied herbal, passed down from master to apprentice. Pages brown, ink faded, but its contents still sound. Outside, the sky is lavender. A soft mist clings to the rooftops. The world still belongs to the quiet ones. You put on the kettle. Your footsteps echo softly on the wooden floor as you walk toward the workbench. A small window offers a view of the dew-speckled street. A cat slinks past, barely disturbing the silence. In this stillness, you prepare your mind. The day will be long, but gentle. You arrange a few tools. A brass scale, weighted for delicate measurements. Clean muslin cloth, folded precisely. Bundles of herbs, tied with twine, rest in a woven basket near the hearth. Each one was dried in your own attic, turned regularly to avoid rot. Thyme, mullein, yarrow, old friends with dependable uses. You pause for a sip of warm water. The cup, handmade and uneven, fits your palm perfectly. Even its chipped rim has become familiar. Today, there is a list. An elder has requested a warming salve for her knees. A young woman is seeking something for sleep. A traveler arrived last night. Perhaps the constable will send for a tonic. You begin the day's first task, preparing a soothing oil for cough. Sweet almond oil, warmed in a clay bowl, is infused with elecampane root and licorice. The scent rises slowly, sweet, and faintly earthy. The flame beneath the bowl dances softly, reflected in the polished copper kettle beside it. You hum to yourself an old tune, wordless now. It echoes lightly off the beams above. Time passes gently. The first rays of the sun slip in, making soft patterns on the floor. You take inventory, crushed bark, dried berries, sliced roots. You sort carefully, your hands moving with practiced ease. A robin flutters past the window. The bell above the door chimes once your apprentice arrives. She hangs her cloak, dips her head in greeting, and begins laying out parchment labels. You show her how to powder dried marshmallow root with a heavier mortar. She listens intently, her hands steady. The room is filled with quiet concentration. Outside, footsteps echo along the cobbles. The village is waking. You send her to fetch water. The well is close, and her absence gives you a moment to pause. You sit near the hearth, sip nettle tea, and listen. The creak of rafters, the tick of heat, the smell of rosemary still lingering on your sleeve. Returning to the bench, you begin to wrap herbal pouches. Small linen squares filled with calming blends, lavender, chamomile, lemon balm, tied with soft string. You arrange them in a shallow basket lined with cloth. A gift for the midwife. Your apprentice returns, cheeks flushed, hair damp with mist. She places the pail beside the hearth and begins to peel and dry bark from a fresh bundle of willow. The hours stretch, no sense of hurry. Only the rhythm of grinding, pouring, steeping, and waiting. At midday, you step outside. The sun is higher, warm on the thatched roof. The village square is now busy. A dog sleeps under a cart. A child sings to herself while skipping stones. You return indoors and take a moment to write in your daily log. Patient names, ingredients used, notes for the coming days. There is peace in these routines. There is silence between the tasks. And in this silence, the work becomes something more than duty. It becomes presence. You sit once more with your apprentice and teach her how to distinguish between two nearly identical roots, aconite and horseradish. One a poison, one a remedy. She listens carefully, memorizing the scent, the texture of each. You smile softly, remembering when your own hands trembled with uncertainty. Now they are steady. The room is filled with the aroma of steeping herbs. Nearby, the gentle hiss of oil warming, the tap of pestle to mortar, the rustle of parchment. Nothing abrupt, only repetition, only rhythm. Later in the afternoon, you begin preparing a custom tonic for a young man with digestive complaints. You carefully crush fennel and anise, then add gentian root and dried orange peel. The process is slow, involving several rounds of infusion, resting, and filtering through linen. While it steeps, you organize your supply of dry goods, stacking fresh bundles of sage and wormwood, shaking out cloth bags of dried nettle and lemon balm, brushing excess powder from shells with a soft horsehair brush. The apprentice sits quietly beside the hearth, knotting lavender stems into sachets. You pause to praise her technique, gently adjusting her grip so the bundles tie cleanly. She nods and continues without a word. As the shadows lengthen, a villager knocks softly and enters. It is the carpenter's wife. Her eyes are tired. She asks for something to help her sleep. You offer her a small jar of poppy syrup, just enough to calm the body, not enough to confuse the mind. She leaves a single coin, then hesitates and places a small pouch of dried apples in your hand. You bow your head in thanks. The shop grows quieter. You light a lantern and check that your firewood is dry and close at hand. Outside, the air begins to chill. You sit once more, add a few lines to your journal. Look around the shop. Nothing is out of place. The herbs, the tools, the glass, the jars, all in their places. And within you, calm. The work continues tomorrow. But for now, the day's beginning has fully bloomed. Let us now drift farther into the folds of time, to a place of cloistered halls and sacred gardens, to the life of a woman who quietly changed the way we think about healing, plants, and the body itself. Her name was Hildegard. Born in the year 1098 in the Rhineland of what is now Germany, Hildegard of Bingen lived a life that would echo far beyond her Benedictine walls. You may imagine her now a child cloaked in linen, pressing herbs between her palms, curious, contemplative. From an early age, she experienced visions, not of fire and chaos, but of order, of light, of divine structure. By the age of 8, she had been offered to the church. She was enclosed in a small cell beside a monastery, a place called Dissebodenberg. It was here, in quiet isolation, that her understanding of the natural world began to unfurl. Her days were filled with prayer, reading, tending to the sick. But in between these sacred tasks, she observed. She listened. She gathered. The rustle of leaves after rain, the way fennel eased digestion, the clarity brought by lemon balm. These small details formed the fabric of her world. She kept a quiet journal, recording what she saw and what she felt. In the margins, she sketched out vines and leaves, sunbursts, and rivers. Her world, though enclosed, was wide with meaning. As she grew older, Hildegard became a leader of her community. She wrote extensively treatises on medicine, the human body, theology, and plants. One of her most enduring works, Physica, cataloged the healing properties of herbs and stones. She did not shout her knowledge. She simply set it down, as one might press flowers into a book. She believed that health was the harmony of body, mind, and spirit, that illness came when balance was broken. Her cures were gentle. Often, they involved music, warm compresses, tinctures, prayer. Imagine her sitting beside a patient, her voice calm, her hands warm, crushing dried sage into a poultice, placing a hand on the brow, not to cure, but to comfort. She believed fennel to be a plant of joy. She prescribed it for digestive health, but also to lift sadness. She used galangal for fevers and betony for clearing the mind. Her tone in her writings was never harsh. It was patient, observant. She also wrote of the stars, a divine harmony, of the music of creation. She composed songs, simple chants for healing, for meditation. Her melodies lingered like the scent of lavender in a sunlit room. In time, Hildegard moved her order to a new convent, Rupertsberg. There, she created a garden of healing, a sanctuary where plants were grown not for display, but for use. Her nuns learned her methods, preserved her books, and passed on her wisdom. They would walk in the garden, whispering to each other in Latin and German, fingers brushing over thyme, rosemary, valerian. They knew the times of harvest, the seasons of potency. Her visions never ceased, but they did not overwhelm her. Instead, they deepened her sense of order, of beauty, of connection between divine and earthly life. Even emperors and popes sought her advice. She corresponded with Frederick Barbarossa and Pope Eugene III. Her letters, full of vision and resolve, carried the weight of a woman unshaken by power. Yet in the evening she returned to her herbs, to her quiet observations, the warm stillness of the apothecary table. Sometimes she would sit by candlelight, scribing by hand while the scent of mint dried beside her. Her fingers stained with ink, her brow furrowed not with worry, but with focus. She counseled moderation, harmony in food, in speech, in behavior. She warned against excess and praised the balance found in nature's rhythms. Even as her fame spread, she lived simply. Her room small, her meals modest. Her delight found in the blossom of a calendula, the quiet endurance of nettles and frost. She also taught that sound could heal. Her chants were carefully tuned to what she described as divine frequencies. These were not loud, elaborate works, but slow, flowing melodies, echoing through stone corridors in early morning light. She painted her visions too. Strange, colorful images, mandalas, circles of fire, wheels turning. Though few survive in her own hand, they reveal how she saw the world, not in linear tailies, but in interconnected webs. To study Hildegard is to study someone who wove spirit into science, who treated the heart and the liver with equal reverence, who believed in the healing power of community, of faith, of quiet attention. She was a woman not of war, but of wisdom, not of drama, but of discipline. She taught her sisters to care not just for the sick, but for one another, to view healing as a holistic act, not just of the body, but of the spirit. And in her convent, healing was shared, not sold. No one was turned away. Her knowledge extended beyond medicine. She wrote on geology, music, linguistics, and ethics. Her universal curiosity made her one of the most prolific minds of her time, yet she wore her brilliance with humility. One can almost imagine her fingers running along the ridges of a dried leaf, murmuring a prayer beneath her breath, mixing a tonic with a small wooden spoon, as bells tolled in the distance. And when she died, her nuns wept softly, not in great outcry, but as one might when the last ember fades, knowing the warmth remains in the walls, in the soil, in the memory of a garden that once bloomed beneath their hands. So as your eyelids grow heavy, think of Hildegard's garden, of the balm she brewed by moonlight, of the words she wrote when no one was listening. They were not lost. They were waiting for you. Still, more forgotten lore lingers in the folds of parchment and in oral traditions passed from grandmother to granddaughter. Take feverfew, for instance. Today, it is still recommended for migraines. But in the medieval era, it was used to calm inflammation in both body and spirit. It was often picked before sunrise, believed to be most potent when the dew still kissed its leaves. One herbal scroll recommends steeping it alongside rose petals and mint for women troubled by head pain and restlessness, or nettles those prickly, unassuming weeds. Their sting was seen as purgative. For blood too thick and lazy, an old remedy reads, let the nettle stir like flame under a pot. People wrapped warm nettle compresses around joints aching from cold. They drank nettle broth in spring to awaken a winter-weary body. They did not curse the sting. They welcomed it, much like bitter medicine. Some recipes were sacred to place. Highland remedies, for example, might include moss gathered from the north side of ancient stones, believed to carry ancestral strength. In Italy, midwives swore by olive oil mixed with crushed lavender for postpartum care. In the Levant, rue and bay leaf were burned in ritual cleansing. The apothecary's book became a map of lands visited, people served, knowledge exchanged. Consider also the silence of these healers. Most were never recorded in history. Their remedies were not published or canonized, yet their hands stitched countless lives back together. Their legacies bloom again with each rediscovery. In the East, Islamic medicine during the Golden Age preserved and advanced these traditions. The Canon of Medicine by Avicenna describes over 800 remedies, herbs distilled into clear categories of hot, cold, moist, and dry. His influence would echo back into Europe centuries later, yet many of his methods shared uncanny similarity with folk cures passed down in kitchens. Sometimes, what was forgotten in the West was quietly preserved elsewhere. Even today, on the outskirts of villages in Eastern Europe or along the Mediterranean coast, old women carry this quiet science. They dry marjoram, crush oregano, and make vinegar stick with thyme and garlic. They may not call it medicine, but it is. And it connects them to every apothecary before them. Meanwhile, scientists continue to test those old remedies. They ask, why did a honey and vinegar poultice reduce swelling? Why did leeks in wine cure certain skin infections? Why did ash bark calm fevers? The answers come slowly. Not every remedy holds up, but enough do that it humbles modern minds. Not all mysteries are solved through science. Some are preserved through rhythm, through kindness, through care, through time. The use of planetary hours and lunar cycles was another subtle but powerful feature of early herbal practice. Remedies were not always taken when symptoms began, but when the stars and heavens aligned. A preparation made on a waxing moon might be said to increase vitality. A cure created during a waning moon might be for purging or expelling illness. Such beliefs were interwoven into calendars and chants, becoming part of the apothecary's routine. In some monastic apothecaries, herbs were grown in raised beds shaped into sacred geometry circles, crosses, and spirals. This was not merely aesthetic. It was a way to reflect divine order in earthly healing. The placement of lavender near rosemary or mint away from basil followed centuries-old patterns believed to optimize their energetic interaction. Seasonal rituals guided harvesting. On St. John's Eve, villagers might walk the fields, gathering herbs thought to hold midsummer power. Mothers brewed tonics for their children. Elders prepared elixirs to strengthen the heart. These were communal moments, woven into the social fabric as much as the medical. And what are the tools? The pestle and mortar were not simply implements, they were ceremonial. Made of wood, stone, or bronze, passed from mentor to apprentice, they carried the memory of mixtures made long ago. A worn pestle might have ground chamomile for sleep, valerian for sorrow, or hyssop to guard against plague. Old apothecaries sometimes painted or etched protective symbols onto their shelves or benches crosses, stars, or prayers in Latin. These symbols offered comfort and structure in a world where illness could seem random and merciless. In one corner of Europe, an entire practice grew around simple remedies made from a single herb. The idea was elegance and clarity. One plant, one purpose. Simples were easy to teach, to memorize, to share. They were given with instruction not just for the body, but the heart. Drink this for your melancholy, a healer might say, placing a chamomile tea into a trembling hand. In quieter moments, when no patients came and the fire burned low, An apothecary might sit and copy text by candlelight. They will carefully sketch leaves and roots, write down observations, note what did not work. These manuscripts were acts of devotion. Tonight, as you lie back and close your eyes, think of a wooden shelf lined with dusty jars, a candle flickering beside an open book, a quiet figure grinding root into powder. Not to impress, not to prove, but simply to heal. And even now, perhaps, those old recipes are not gone. They wait in gardens, in stories, in dreams, waiting for you. Now, let us ascend softly, steadily from the humble stone walls of the apothecary's workroom to the wide, quiet corridors of a manor house. Imagine tall windows glazed with wavy glass, light filtering through onto polished wooden floors. This chapter invites you into the slower rhythms of elite medieval life, not in grandeur, but in its ceremonies of routine, stillness, and curated power. A medieval lord, unlike the kings of fairy tales, did not ride into battle every morning. His days were often filled with estate audits, slow walks through orchards, letters penned to distant allies, and discussions over parchment maps. And at the center of it all was his manner of structure, not just of stone and timber, but of hierarchy and expectation. Begin in the great hall. Long before breakfast is served, the steward is already at work, reviewing ledgers by candlelight. A lord rises slowly. His chamber is cool, the thick stone walls holding the night air long into the morning. He is dressed by his valet not because he cannot dress himself, but because to do so otherwise would disrupt the expected rituals of his rank. His clothes are not extravagant, but carefully made. Wool in winter, linen in summer. A tunic dyed with woad or madder. A belt of embossed leather. Rings passed down through generations. Each item, a quiet marker of status. Each thread spun with purpose. His morning may begin with prayer. A soft murmuring in Latin, eyes closed before a small altar. Even the wealthy clung to rituals to steady themselves against the uncertainties of harvest, war, or plague. Then, he walks the estate. Slowly, observantly. He pauses to greet the head gardener, nods to the dairyman, remarks on the new fencing near the sheep pens. It is not only power he holds, it is responsibility. His people rely on the manor's rhythm, on his decisions. There are no rushes. His steps are deliberate. The air smells of hay and cool stone. The wind rustles the banners above. Lunch is taken in the hall lesser folk at the long benches. The lord and his family raised slightly on a dais. The food is hearty but measured. Stewed beans, roasted meats, bread so thick and brown it must be cut with a blade. He eats little, but he watches. Always he watches. Afternoons may be devoted to correspondence. Letters to neighboring lords, to abbots, to distant cousins. A complaint about a disputed boundary. A request for cloth. A reminder that taxes will soon be due. His scribe dips the quill into ink made from oak galls and vinegar, writing in slow, curling script. Each word a contract, each signature a weight. And then, perhaps, an hour of reading. From a manuscript on agriculture, or from a Latin text copied by monks, or perhaps a book of hours, richly illustrated. He reads not to escape, but to remember his place, his role, his lineage. And then the audit. Once a week, sometimes more, the reeve or bailiff enters with parchment rolls and tally sticks. They sit in a stone room with high, narrow windows. The lord listens. How many pigs were sold? How many bushels of barley lost to rot? Did the tanner pay his due? There are pauses, murmured calculations, quill scratches. The lord nods, occasionally marking his approval with a wax seal pressed into red beeswax. There is satisfaction in order, in ledgers that balance, in barns that are full. Evenings are gentler. A small fire crackles in the hearth. The family gathers. Children sit at the lord's feet. A game of chess is played. A harp is strummed by a visiting minstrel. The fire's glow softens the stern outlines of tapestries. The lady of the house embroiders slowly, the needle gliding through dyed thread. She, too, governs. The still room is her domain, where she distills rosewater, preserves pears, prepares linen for the sick. Her notebooks are every bit as precise as her husband's ledgers. As the day closes, prayers again. The bells of a nearby chapel toll the hour of compline. The manor sleeps, but not all. The watchman walks the grounds, lantern in hand. The night steward ensures the fires will not go out. Somewhere in the kitchens, a pot simmers for tomorrow. And the cycle begins again. This was the silent wealth of the manor. Not jewels or feasts, but a rhythm kept without fail. One generation to the next, its peace was not loud. It was cultivated. Like a garden hedge clipped patiently over years. Like a path worn by generations of steady feet. It was this daily script that held the medieval countryside together. A quiet system of duties and rituals, of decisions made without haste, of meals taken in company, of candles lit not to dazzle, but to warm. You may find it mundane, but in this mundanity was the elegance of control. The nobility did not rule solely by decree. They ruled by consistency, by holding the line, by embodying each day a vision of continuity. And so, as your eyes grow heavy, think of those slow, steady footsteps along the manor corridor. Think of the quill scratching over parchment, the rhythm of a distaff turning wool, the smell of lavender pressed into linens. The manor's power did not need to shout. It hummed, like a low chant in a distant chapel, like the steady drip of water from a stone basin. Still there, still waiting, preserved in memory, in walls, in dust, waiting for dawn. And now, as our journey through the rhythms of medieval life draws to a close, allow yourself a final reflection. We have wandered softly through the winding alleys of the medieval city, through crowded homes and quiet hearts. We have listened to the story of Eleanor, once queen, now a figure faded gently into her twilight years. We have dusted off the parchment of forgotten remedies, where nature and knowledge once met in the humble hands of apothecaries. And we have stepped silently through the carved archways of the manor house, where order, duty, and legacy whispered through every corridor. These were not loud lives, not ones of spectacle, but they were lives lived with rhythm, with care, with purpose. Even the chaos of disease or war, of taxes or toil, did not fully disrupt the measured heartbeat of these worlds. The cobbler waking before sunrise, the child learning to read by firelight, the steward calculating grain to last the winter. Each moment a thread in a tapestry so vast and quiet we often forget to see it. History is not only found in the flash of swords or the declarations of kings. It rests in the slow drip of an ale barrel, in the page turned in a book of hours, in the scent of time hung to dry, in the ledger that simply, perfectly balances. As you drift into rest, let your mind settle among these soft textures of the past. Let the hum of a spinning wheel carry you. Let the flicker of a candlelight soothe you. Let the gentle footsteps of those long ago guide you, slowly, silently, into sleep. Good night.